Potential NFC Championship preview here as the Eagles host the Lions in the Week 11 Sunday Nighter. We'll break it all down for you. Best bets, why an under might be in the mix here, I think. NFL primetime trends and much, much more. Welcome to the channel. Ninja here with Nick Holz. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button. Trying to make it to 30,000 subscribers before the end of 2025. So every little bit helps. Nick, let me ask you about primetime trends here. You cover this for oddshark.com. Folks can bookmark that article. Nick updates it regularly. What are we seeing in terms of betting trends for primetime games?
Yeah, the dogs barking early in this season. Actually, in primetime games, underdogs went an unbelievable 8-1 straight up at one point in October. And for the last 5 seasons, if you're on underdogs against the spread, just blindly, you're up over 3 units of profit. In that same span, the primetime under has been one of the best bets in the NFL, hitting on 57% of primetime occasions for about 25 units of profit. So it's still a great play.
I'm sure you watched Philly closely last week as they beat your Packers, but that was a pretty drab showing for the Eagles. Is that performance mixed with a short week here now, is that cause for concern for, Eagles fans and even people that are thinking about backing the Eagles here?
I wouldn't say it's cause for concern. I mean, I thought Philly's defense played well throughout the game. Jalen Carter really showed up, and we saw new acquisition Jalen Phillips have 8 pressures, grab a fumble recovery as well, a quarterback hit. So I think the Eagles are all right there. Offensively, they made plays in the fourth quarter. We saw Saquon Barkley. That's what he gets paid to do. He makes a guy miss and makes a play. And then Devontae Smith with a long touchdown catch as well. Philly's still 8th in EPA per play offensively over the past 4 weeks, so they're still scoring. And I think if this offense gets humming down the stretch, look out, because this Eagles team is still getting after it.
Yeah, it's been pretty impressive because, like you mentioned, the passing game hasn't really hit its stride. The running game, obviously, Saquon, some regression was expected. But despite all that, they're still first in the NFC going into Week 11. But is this the best team, Nick, in the NFC?
Well, they're the reigning Super Bowl champs, right? So as the old saying goes, you got to beat the best to be the best. And they're top 12 in EPA per play on both sides of the football. And looking at the standings, I mean, they've beaten the Rams, the Bucks, the Packers, 3 likely NFC playoff teams. And their only loss in the conference is against the Giants. You could make the argument for Seattle or the Rams as the top team in the NFC right now, the way those 2 teams are just humming along. But like I said, to beat the best, you got to beat the Eagles. And honestly, looking at the board, if they were a home playoff team against one of those squads right now, the Eagles are likely favored in that one.
Over on the Lions side, Dan Campbell took over offensive play calling duties recently, and they ran the ball almost half the time in Week 10, above their season average, what we've seen from this team so far. Do you see this continuing, and should bettors focus now even more so on Gibbs and Montgomery props for this game, especially where David Montgomery is coming off his second most carries so far this season?
Well, I'd be very careful and keep a close eye on those prop lines for both Gibbs and Montgomery in this one. Remember, the Lions were up 3 scores in the first half against Washington, and it's very, very easy to call running plays in that situation. So I think a lot of that was really game script. I mean, it's fairly easy to look at Jahmyr Gibbs and say, here, take the football, and you see that 35-year-old linebacker, just beat him to the corner and run, and he'll do that all day. Against the Eagles, it's going to be a slightly different story here. Got Penei Sewell and Graham Glasgow left last week's game with injuries, so we'll see if they suit up. And both those numbers are very high right now for me. The Gibbs prop at over 63.5 rushing yards, Montgomery 41.5. I think Dan Campbell in a game with playoff implications is going to be fairly aggressive on Sunday night, so I'd hit pause on those props for now.
The Lions are 6-3 going into Week 11, but they haven't really played an elite defense in a little bit, at least. Now, given that both of these defenses here are pretty close to top tier, the Eagles have struggled a little bit offensively, like you mentioned, and the Lions love to control the clock. They rank among the top 5 in the NFL so far this season. I look at that. I look at this number on the board here, 46.5. You've talked about the primetime trends. Does this have the makings of another under here in primetime football?
Well, I know it's not what fans want to hear at all after those 3 stinkers we saw last week, but it certainly does. I mean, you look at Jared Goff's numbers outdoors, and his interception rate nearly doubles. His touchdown rate is almost cut in half, and his yards per attempt as well, coming all the way down when he plays outside in his career. We saw the Eagles offense struggle last week against the Packers, so we'll have to see if Detroit can replicate that performance. Having said that, 2 starters on the Lions secondary actually left last week's game as well, with Terran Arnold and Brian Branch both suffering injuries. So keep a close eye on whether or not they can go. If not, could be an opportunity for the Eagles skill position players to get rolling here.
I'll get your pick in a moment here, but folks, you can get Prop Professor for 50% off for the first month. This app drops hundreds of plus EV bets every single day, giving you a real shot at finding long-term profit. There are still some plus EV plays out. For this one, under 2.5 catches for Saquon Barkley, 7.1% plus EV at plus 135 at Valley. Over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts, minus 110 at Hard Rock, around 2% plus EV. Just a sample of what Prop Professor offers its users. You can sort through plays across the NFL, the NBA, college football, and much more. It's got tools for arbitrage betting. It's got a fantasy optimizer. It's easily the best bang for buck app on the market compared to its competition. So use that promo code OddShark50 at checkout. You can get 50% off for that first month. All right, Nick, let's talk about your pick here. As we sit here, the Eagles inside a field goal, minus 2.5 at DraftKings. As it stands right now, the total, like we mentioned, 46.5. The over, minus 118, under coming back at minus 102. Plenty of high caliber names on offense for both of these teams. So player props will be plentiful for this one. But what are you looking at here?
Yeah, I spoke a little bit about Goff's deficiencies when playing outdoors. And how about this one? 15-mile-an-hour winds expected in Philly on Sunday. Goff, in 12 games throughout his career, when playing in wind gusts above 10 miles an hour, just 6-6 straight up and against the spread. On top of that, the former number 1 overall picks just 4-9 straight up as an underdog in primetime in his career. So you can probably guess I'm on the Eagles to cover the spread here. I got them at minus 1.5 the other day, but as you said, they're up to 2.5 at most books right now. I'm also keeping a close eye on Jameson Williams prop. I like his over 0.5 first quarter receptions. He's hit that line in 8 of his last 10 road games, averaging over 1 reception in the first quarter per contest, and he's seen 13 targets across the last 2 weeks.